Hello, so welcome to this video for COMP3218, Game Design at the University of Southampton. My name is Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I'm here with...
Ioan Daniel Marino, one of the demonstrators.
Brilliant. So we're going to go through a number of student games in today's video. And do you want to just say a little bit about what we asked the students to do?
Yeah, of course. So for the first coursework, we asked them to create a game with a clear core dynamic and make a tutorial for it.
Brilliant. Okay, well let's get on and have a look at our first game. Okay, so our first game is called Onslaught. So here we go. So there's a tutorial option, which I guess I will leave on. Play or exit. Let's play. Alright, okay. So what do you think I should do? There's a bat coming. Do you think that's bad? Oh, hey there, pal. You're looking a little lost. Well, they're not wrong. Are you alright? Why don't you try looking around by moving the mouse pointer on the screen? Yeah, there you go. Great job. You're a natural... it's the most patronising bat in the world. Now try getting those feet moving. With WASD or the arrow keys. Okay. Oh yeah, that gives me a little checklist. I like it. You can also shoot arrows by clicking the left mouse button on the screen. See, I quite like this current task. Shoot 3 times.
Yeah.
No, I can't shoot the bat, unfortunately. Oh dear. Very nice. If I were you, I'd pause the game with escape and take a moment to calm down. Ah, lovely. Alright, okay, nice. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you were hurt. Oh, there we go, look. You can see that the health bar below you is only half full. Okay. It'll be alright. Okay, we've got passive health regen, it's good. Its timer resets if you get hit in a fight. Alright. I can see now why you can turn off the tutorial.
Yes,
I'm sure you're... Okay, right. So I like this. It's the tone's really funny and it's done quite well.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do just want to get on and play now. So it's a lot of exposition, right? And I kind of almost wish that they told me this as I was playing, rather than just making me sit here and watch it. Brutally murdered. His soul consumed. Oh, you know, he's a bat. Okay. Oh, there's another bat. I shoot the bat. Oh no. Oh no, sorry. Sorry, Billy. Oh. Oh dear. Oh dear. Alright, I've had enough of this now. Consume Billy's soul.
Oh wow.
It's quite a bit strange, but okay. So I like these little bars, this is good. 2 random permanent upgrades. Weapon damage or movement speed. I'll take weapon damage. I'll move relatively fast, I think. Oh, okay.
For as long as you can.
Oh, I see. So he's not actually my bat friend. End of tutorial, starting game. Okay. So what does souls do again? I actually pay attention.
Give you XP to upgrade.
Choose an upgrade. Maximum health. I'll have that, I think. My rate of fire is quite slow, which is probably a good thing. Get off. Perhaps I should have taken that movement speed.
Ah,
Maximum health, maybe?
yeah, for now the damage is enough.
Okay. Arrow, what does that mean? Oh, do you think it goes through them? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent. I like it. Oh, that's like a flying beholder. What the hell's that? Why are you having a laugh? Get off! Ow, 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 ow. Bats. Right. Is this an
You really need to upgrade your attack damage.
Ow, get off. Get off. Yeah. I quite like the there's a really nice tension between picking up the stuff and the
Yeah,
do you... I know it's kind of natural in these types of games. Let's get more health regen, I think. Because my health's not going well. I'm wishing I've took movement speed now. Oh, yeah, get up. What? You're having a joke. Oh dear. Yeah, movement speed, I think, is the secret.
Definitely.
So if I play again, is it going to give me the tutorial? No. Alright.
No.
Alright, so while we're playing, shall we start having a think about... I'm assuming... I don't know, maybe if I survived... Movement speed. Maybe if I survived a bit longer, I'd get a different level or something. But should we just start going through the criteria anyway?
Yeah, well... You're doing that.
Yeah. So I guess first up will be presentation, won't it?
Yeah, so I guess we can start with information design.
There's a stuck bat. So the information design, I've got the timer at the top, how long I've survived. And I've got my health bar.
And XP.
And my XP, yeah. So I think all that's quite clear. There's also little bits of feedback. So when I take damage, I flash red, for example.
Yeah, and the tutorial itself had nice, like on the top right, a list of what to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the information design is pretty good actually. What would a good be for information design?
So a good would be all key information is shown.
Right.
Which I guess I don't see what else.
I think that's what I've got here.
Yeah, and
what would it be for excellent though?
So excellent would be all key information is shown clearly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a limit in terms of what you actually need to show, I suppose. God, I wish I had those piercing arrows at this point. But yeah, I like the way that the stuff is shown very close to where you are. So it's like it's where your attention is effectively. And the flashing red and the flashing green, which I forgot what it means, but I'm sure it was important, is also quite kind of helpful.
Yeah, it does, tell you information without taking away, I guess, from the experience, or taking your...
So the only thing that's perhaps maybe missing, and it might have been a design choice to do it this way, is that oh my god, there's mushroom men now. Run away. Is that there's clearly waves coming in, right?
Yeah.
So and it's not really telling me what have I got here? Arrow piercing, that's what we want.
Yeah, so it doesn't tell you...
So it doesn't tell me kind of when the next wave's coming in or where I've got to... and I think that would maybe get me a better sense of progress than the a better sense of progress than just the time, which is kind of a little bit lost. But that's the only thing I would say. So yeah, in general, I mean, maybe sort of halfway between good and excellent for that.
Yeah, you just feel almost there.
It's very effective. Graphics I like. Simple, effective, very consistent. 3 minutes 43. The menus all look good. It's very clear what's going on. So yeah, I mean, what would excellent be for that?
Yeah, so excellent would be consistent, effective, and appealing graphics.
Yeah, I think it counts for that. It's got that kind of whole pixel art thing going on.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe the only thing is how the menus or the text is not necessarily pixel art, but that's not really.
Yes, you're right. Actually, that's true. Sort of. But I think the main menu wasn't it? It's just the timer that isn't.
Yeah.
So I'm still happy for that. Movement speed. I definitely need movement speed because when those horrible, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Goat men, satyrs, something. When they appear. Yeah,
so I would say we are at the excellent.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. The animations are all working nicely. It's kind of it all works well together. It's good, and probably the same for sound as well. I've got sound effects. I've got music.
Music, yeah.
I've turned it down a little bit because with these things, the volume mix is always a bit difficult. But actually, the music is appropriately frenetic. And there's a nice little arrow sound, and the creatures all make a,
and picking up the souls.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah. There's kind of nice feedback. So yeah, I would say I would go for excellent for that as well.
An excellent, which is complementary and appealing effects and music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think that's definitely there, and I guess then we can move on to meaningful play and more specifically mechanics, let's say.
Yeah. So here we've got obviously shooting, we've got picking up souls. What else have we got going on? We've got the different the power-ups. So obviously we've got different power-ups that we can choose. We've got I don't think there's an enormous difference between the enemies. It's mainly their. I'm going to kill back up the bats. It's embarrassing. I'm assuming that the enemies aren't particularly different, other than perhaps their speed and health. I'm trying to remember if I've noticed much else difference between them.
I don't think there's any, or at least we haven't seen any enemy that has like a projectile, for example. It's mostly following you with a different speed or different, health and damage.
So what would good be?
Good would be a set of complementary mechanics.
So I think there's definitely a set of complementary mechanics. And what would excellent be?
A wide set of complementary mechanics.
Yeah, I don't think it quite would count as wide. But not bad at all, really. Perfectly sufficient to have a game. I mean, I am properly playing it, and that's, as you know, most of the battle, really.
Yeah.
So I think we can go for good. What else is there? There's controls, isn't there?
Yeah, controls. How do they feel?
Yeah, so the controls are the character actually moves really well. It's really responsive, and although I'm getting stuck on stuff, I'm never feeling it's unfair. I'm going to play around with the boundary boxes a little bit to see. I think kind of I've got a little bit of Just have a look. Yeah, there's a little. Yeah. See, there's. Yeah. They seem to have set them right. So no, I feel like I'm in control. I know what I'm doing. The only thing might be a little bit more feedback about where I'm shooting, possibly. But I mean that's really niggly. Because I mean, obviously I can see my mouse cursor, but.
Yeah. So in this case, let's see. A good would be a reasonable set of smooth, usable controls, which, from the sounds of it, we have.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Are they intuitive?
Well, they're somewhat simple, I'd say, but yeah, I'd say they're kind of on their way towards intuitive. It's certainly very playable, so maybe we could put them halfway between the two.
Yeah. And at the end we have the bugs.
I haven't seen any. Have you had any bugs?
I don't.
I think it's working.
Remember seeing any. And the game is reasonably complex.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously I've just got the one area, but I've got multiple different types of upgrade. I've got different types of enemies, different size obstacles. I mean, it might have been nice to put perhaps some sort of more interactive obstacles in the space, but I think as a prototype, I think it works really well.
Yeah, so I guess in this case we don't have any obvious bugs.
No. So
which is...
It's going to be an excellent level, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. And that leads us to the goals, risks and rewards sub-criteria.
So, yeah. So the only thing I would say is, notice what I'm doing now, right?
So
because the games that I think the goals, risks and rewards actually are pretty good generally, because what it's doing is, as I said, look, I'm choosing not to go and pick up any of the souls, right? And as a result of that, I'm going to eventually get written down by all these horrible creatures.
Oh.
So there's a nice tension between like doing what I'm doing now, which is almost, I would say, a dominant strategy, right? I don't think it's quite there, but it's certainly the most effective thing to do. But then you never pick up any rewards because you never go back on yourself, right?
Yeah, and I think...
I suspect if you did that from the beginning, then you just get killed.
Yeah, I think from, the later waves, if you do that thing where you just go to the right, you have things spawning around you that are quite fast, so it stops being a good strategy.
So let's think about this. So in terms of the goals, I think it's very clear what your goal is, right? You have to survive as long as possible. It tells you. It's made very clear by the timer. Everything else works. That works. The risks and rewards are sort of inherent in this whole idea of picking stuff up. But yeah, I think they're certainly there. Maybe they could be emphasised a little bit more if, like I said, if you had more interactive things in the environment. So I had some sort of things I could do that would perhaps help me kill more enemies at once, but were more difficult to actually try. So traps in the environment or something. Oh, there's a bat. I didn't see him.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking they've got it. So what would be good for this?
Okay, yeah, so good would be a clear and coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards.
Yeah, so I think if there's a problem, it's about the set. I think it's kind of like it's relatively straightforward, and they're relying on a sort of an inherent risk reward mechanism for this type of game. But I think maybe we're nitpicking, so perhaps I think we should go for good.
Yeah. I mean, you are making choices, and do I pick the souls now or wait a bit and all that? So it definitely has. And how does the pacing feel?
So the pacing is primarily driven by the waves of enemies, and it actually works quite effectively. So I'm feeling that they're arriving at the perfect time. The only issue I've spotted was in my very first game. If you don't take movement, then these later enemies, because they're faster, will just murder you. Right. But again, as soon as you know that, and you're like, okay, I'll take movement as one of my first things, then you're generally okay. So yeah, I think the pacing works quite well. Again, I would like to have maybe seen a bit more variety, kind of in the enemies. As I say, I'm pretty sure it just increases their health and their speed and possibly where they generate. And it might have been nice, as you said, to have some sort of shooting enemies, or have enemies that were radically different sizes, that provided different sorts of physical obstacles in the space. Maybe that I think would have mixed it up a little bit. But generally, it works pretty well. What was good for pacing?
So good would be tension rises over time in a coherent pattern. Feels like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think the other thing that maybe if another minor criticism would be that it's too smooth. I almost feel like every now and again I'd like there to be some sort of boss generated that just mixes up the gameplay a little bit. And that gives me a kind of those occasional peaks. So maybe I get a boss bat, and then I get the weird flying beholder owls, or whatever the hell they are. And then I get a boss one of those. And again, you wouldn't have had to do a huge amount to make that work. You could have just used a bigger version of the model.
Yeah.
And yeah, put a kind of different pattern of movement in or something. But yeah, so I mean, I'm being relatively. These are minor niggles, I think.
We're definitely at the good.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right place. I think.
Yeah. And I guess that leads us to the tutorial.
So the tutorial which we had at the beginning, I definitely liked. I thought it was fun. It went on a little bit long, and there was like I said, there was a lot of exposition. So ideally, with a tutorial, crikey, look at that lot. Ideally, with a tutorial, you want to try and show people how to play through play. So I suppose what I'm asking for would be, ideally I'd have had a more dynamic tutorial, right? Where I would have been actually doing stuff as I was learning. But it was definitely there. It definitely taught me the controls, taught me the game. So what would good be for tutorial?
Yeah, so good would be gradual explanation of gameplay and controls fully aligned with play.
So that's the problem, I think, is it's not fully aligned with play. So what would satisfactory be?
Gradual explanation of gameplay and controls somewhat aligned with play.
I think you can say they've done that, because they gave you the little task. I mean, a lot of the stuff around the tutorial was really nice. Things like the task list that came up, where you had to tick off the things and demonstrate that you could do it. So I think they actually had the right idea. They just sort of should have done it in game, really, rather than
I guess because it's a bit hard in because they want a survival and a timer, and somehow having a tutorial.
Yeah, but you could
and a timer.
You could have done it. You could have done it away from the timer. You don't have to have. You could have the tutorial as being a separate section at the beginning. But what I wanted to be doing was actually, navigating a series of obstacles, shooting a bunch of enemies. So I think kind of. It was partly integrated, wasn't it? I think. So maybe we should go with sort of halfway between satisfactory and good, to reflect the fact that they had that element in there.
Yeah, and
that whole kind of ticking off the tasks, which is effectively play.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I guess now that leads us to the core dynamic.
So they'd have put this down in their game notes, and I'm hoping they'll have put survival.
Yes, they have.
So I mean, there's clearly a very strong destruction dynamic, but it is in service of that survival, right? I mean, I'm not building up a score. It's not making me feel particularly powerful. Persecuted is the word I would use. I actually think they've done a pretty good job. Everything seems to be pulling in the right direction.
Yeah, they do mention that not every upgrade assists the player with killing enemies. Some are purely for survival.
Yes,
yeah,
that's a really good point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So they say all the game's main mechanics assist the player in their goal to survive. So they have implemented an infinite level generator to give the player space to run through the game world without being distracted from their goal to survive by invisible walls.
Yeah.
Which, at first, I actually thought that the game world looped. So if you went to one end, you were silently teleported to the other. But apparently, it's a bit harder than that with actual
get off. Yeah.
Random generation. So they have tried to add informative dynamics that convey to the player what effect different mechanics are having, which is...
Blimey. Yeah, that ramps up quite hard at the end there. Yeah. Where were we?
Yeah, so they have added stuff like sound effects and visual changes to the player and the monsters upon taking damage, which again adds to the dynamic. So
what would be good for core dynamic?
Yeah, so good would be a clear core dynamic that is supported by the primary mechanics.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely there, right? They hit that no problem. So what's excellent?
A clear core dynamic that is supported by an integrated set of mechanics.
And I think you kind of, we've got the little invulnerability thing, we've got the power up thing, we've got so we've got those kind of complementary dynamics going on. I think they've done well here, and the timer is clearly where you want to go. Every time I'm playing this, I'm thinking, can I get up to 4 minutes basically, because I've not got to 4 minutes yet.
Yeah.
It's working. I think it's working well. I think excellent. core dynamic.
Yeah, feels like we're definitely there. And the final one is feedback.
So what do they say for feedback?
Oh, it's quite a lot. Let's see. So in the lab, we received feedback about not mixing our survivor core dynamic with the destruction one.
Yeah, it's a real danger with things like this.
Yeah, definitely. So in the end, we decided to make the player's final score to be based entirely on the time they have survived, rather than how many enemies they have killed.
Which works perfectly well, because that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, so they have also implemented waves of enemies that progressively become more difficult.
Yeah.
However, as waves become increasingly difficult and more enemies begin to spawn around the player, avoiding collisions with them will be challenging and eventually lead to the player's death.
Yeah.
So they also say another bit of feedback was about having a way to show the health of the monsters in an unobstructed manner. And they created the health bars that hide when the monster is at full health, so as not to clutter the screen, whilst also allowing the player to keep track.
That's nice. Yeah, I didn't even notice that, but that's true. The other thing I've noticed is that some of these monsters are not affected by the backgrounds. So the flying ones, for example, can fly over the holes.
Yeah.
And actually that also works really well. I almost wish that they'd done a bit more with that, because I can't really use the backgrounds, right? They're purely getting in my way, and I'm having to navigate them, which is fine. But it would have been nice if I could sort of proactively use them, by kind of luring monsters behind them, or kind of getting them trapped, or kind of using them in some particular way. But yeah, okay. So I mean, I think that in terms of that feedback, both of those things that have worked really well, and they seem to have taken it on board and put through some changes that really work.
Yeah, there's a few smaller ones, like the fact that at the beginning they planned to have all 5 monsters shown in the tutorial, but they didn't want to overwhelm the player, or the feedback was try to not overwhelm the player and introduce them separately in the game.
And of course that's much better for pacing.
And then they also had large upgrade trees that they decided not to have because of the feedback, and just went with speed, health, regeneration, and attack. And general stuff like the scale of the game, to not make it too big. And I guess the final one, we were also recommended that our game should make use of sound effects, which they quite nicely have done.
Yes. So what would good be back for feedback?
Yeah, so good would be feedback has been addressed and the changes have been successful.
Yeah, so they've definitely done that, haven't they? And excellent.
Feedback has been interpreted and addressed, and the changes have been successful.
So this is to do with how much they've interpreted. I think they could probably say that they've achieved that, because some of the feedback's been relatively straightforward, but in other ways they've figured out how to try and make the things like the core, these core dynamic and these other dynamics not interfere.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So yeah, I think that's kind of worked. I'm presuming that some of these souls are worth more than others as well, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Right,
the harder enemies give you more XP.
Yeah, so I'm finding that my strategy of just running away is really not doing it for me. So it is much more effective if you if you actually try and pick
later
up
on.
some of the power-ups.
Yeah, so I think we're at the excellent for feedback.
I think so. I think they've done a really nice job. Ooh. So I'm sort of got as far as as pretty much as far as I've ever got here. So I'm gonna stick with this for a minute and see if I can.
Yeah.
Wait till I see the skeletons again. I think the skeletons were the last enemy. Unfortunately, I haven't picked up many health regen power-ups, so I'm gonna die fairly soon. Yeah, I mean, in conclusion, I would say this is a really nice little game. Actually, it's very playable, as you can tell by the fact I'm refusing to stop playing it. There we go. So yeah, very good. So I'm impressed. Shall we move on to the next game? Right. So our next game is called Tavern Mania. Okay, here we go. So Tavern Mania, level select. Okay, alright, so yeah, that's a very good choice. So I will start with level 1. Pour and serve is left. Okay, so they're not telling me how to move, I'm guessing. And what do you think I should do?
I either try the arrow keys maybe, or the W.
So WASD moves around. Pour and serve. So I try to pour. No. So I know what to do here because I played it in the expo. But I do think that it kind of maybe the very first thing you do is not actually that clear. So I think what I need to do is there we go. Is pour the drink, and then I can serve.
Yeah, and the amount of...
Yeah, so I can get 2 lots there, and I can go and serve the guy with 2. And I get 3 lots, and I get serve the person with 3. Alright. There we go. There we go. Right, that's nice. So now I have orange circles. So I'll do that one. Okay.
And they get...
Oh, they're getting angry if I don't serve them. Quite a nice little effect. I like the wobble. Right, so now I've got 2 different types, and they want mixers now. I presume it doesn't matter what order they're in. Oh, that's interesting. So, hang on, I did the wrong thing. So I don't know if you noticed that when I put in the colour, it mixed the colours together in the drink.
Oh yeah.
So that's an interesting choice because it means that the glass doesn't necessarily give you feedback as to what you've put in, or at least the feedback is sort of slightly indirect.
I see. Yeah.
Again, I wonder if that was deliberate or whether that's. Okay, let's do that. Let's see what. All right. So, I have to say, I mean, it's a very simple premise, but it's quite involving.
And I suppose it gets harder later on.
Yeah. Is there anywhere that gives me feedback on how many customers I've got to have in this particular level or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, and I've also got to remember the order they came to the bar, which I suppose is accurate for anyone who's ever worked in a bar. Yeah, so the only thing I'd say is I would like, I think, to know how long I had to go in the rest of the level. That would be quite nice. Okay, it's going alright.
Okay.
Oh, so he's angry. What am I going to do about it? Oh, here comes a...
Another...
so he does the sort of spell thing and he stops being angry. So I have to be honest, this was explained to me in the expo, and once it was explained I was completely happy with it. So basically, these wizards come into the bar.
Yeah, and if
when you serve them, they cast a spell and basically stop everyone else being angry about things. I'm not entirely sure I got that just from the animation, but I can see what they were trying to achieve. Alright, here we go. So, here we go. Should we, while I'm doing this, should we start having a look at the criteria?
Yes.
What have we got first? Presentation.
Yeah, and the information design.
So the information design is quite cute. I like the simplicity of these little serving things.
Yeah, it's quite
And the
simple.
The little bar coming up, and you've also got the feedback of the drink. You know, that effectively that cup in the top corner. Oops. That's.
And the lives as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the. It looks like it's sort of sunset. I'm not sure what that's supposed to indicate. Oh, that's awesome. There we go. And even that little clunk as I get rid of the drink is quite nice.
Yeah, that's.
And the clink of the glasses. Yeah, so I think there's feedback. There's feedback in terms of the sound. Oops. Failed on one. So did I leave the life? So I got the lives in the top right hand corner. So in general, I think they've done a good job of showing me the things I need to see. Like I said, the only thing I wish I had that I don't have is an indication of how far I am through the level. So what would good be?
Good would be all key information is shown.
I've got 3 different things now.
And I suppose you mentioned about the level length or how much is left.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, so what would excellent be?
So all key information is shown clearly.
So
is it clearly?
Yeah, I think it is. So I think the problem is that all the information is shown clearly, but arguably you could do with having a little bit more information. And I'm also not. I'm still not sure about this sunset effect. I don't know what that's going on there.
That was from the wizard, doing the calming spell, I think.
Oh, okay. So I think sort of probably good for information design. Graphics, on the other hand, I really like. I think they've gone for obviously the pixel art, but it works. I mean, arguably, it's a little bit too pixely.
It does fit, I think.
But it fits nicely, and it's super clear. So graphics, I think. I mean, what would excellent be for graphics?
Excellent, consistent, effective, and appealing graphics.
I think that's there, isn't it? I think it's really nicely done. And the sound effects. Yeah. So I've got appropriate sort of tavern-y music, I suppose. I've got the sound of the glasses filling up, so I'm getting feedback from there. I'm getting kind of clinks of the glasses when I serve the customers.
And when you discard a drink, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's a nice sound. So smashing of the glass. So I think probably audio is excellent as well, isn't it?
Complementary and appealing effects and music. Yeah, I think we have them.
Oh, I've upgraded to my local Weatherspoons now. Look, it's getting bigger.
Okay, so next one is the mechanics of the game.
So what do we got? So I can fill stuff up, I can serve customers, I can mix drinks, I can throw away my glass, and I can serve wizards and reduce reduce the anger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a massive set of stuff, but it's enough for an effective game. What would good be for mechanics?
Yeah, so good would be a set of complementary mechanics.
So yeah, I think it's achieved that, hasn't it? What would excellent be?
Excellent is a wide set of complementary mechanics.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a wide set. You know, it's after all, it's a relatively simple game. So
Yeah.
So perhaps we should have it at the good level for that.
And how do the controls feel?
Yeah, they're good actually. I think there's a real danger in a game like this that because it has to feel quite precise. You know, you're under a lot of time pressure and you don't want the controls to get in the way. But the controls actually work well. When I very first started, it's a bit odd. You have to sort of point into the barrel in order to. Oh, I might got that wrong. You have to point into the barrel in order to get it to fill up. I think I'm about to die. Can I do the wizard in time? No. There we go. Oh.
Oh.
My spell didn't. His spell went off. I do wonder whether that was a mistake actually. So I noticed this in the expo. When you save a wizard, they cast a spell, and the spell causes all the anger to reset. But there's a delay, so you can activate a wizard in the nick of time, but they don't cast the spell quickly enough. And I wonder whether that was a bit of a mistake, and making that more instantaneous would mean better. What wasn't a mistake is this, zooming in on the character that caused me to die. That's nice. Another nice little bit of feedback. And I'm back at the same level.
So as you said, the controls feel quite nice. So if we start at a good level and see from there, a reasonable set of smooth, usable controls is the good one.
So I think they definitely achieved
that. And excellent would be a reasonable set of intuitive and smooth usable controls.
So it's the intuitive and smooth. It's hard to say. So I'm not struggling with it at all. It feels perfectly natural to me. I mean, it is simple. So if there was a problem with the controls in terms of the mark scheme, I would say that there's kind of the simplicity of them means it's perhaps difficult to demonstrate too much of the high level stuff. But I mean, they're perfectly adequate. I think probably we should go for the good. So where does that
any bugs
leave us?
that you have found?
No, I think it's working really well, isn't it? I haven't seen anything. So I guess it's reasonably complex and has no bugs, which would make it
excellent.
Excellent, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's reasonably at that level. And that leads us to the level design and the goals, risks, and rewards.
So, goals, risks, and rewards. So, goals first of all. So the goals are pretty clear, right? I mean, they're literally there, sat at the bar, looking at me, right? And it's very obvious what I need to. What I need to do. I'm not failed to get him, aren't I? Got him. So I think the goals are nice and clear. We talked about the feedback about how many people were left to come in. So you could argue that that's perhaps a little bit something that's not quite working with the goals, is because you don't quite know how many you've got to do. So your longer term goals are not clear, if that makes sense. But generally speaking, you know what you're doing. In terms of risks, rewards, well, you're making decisions all the time, right? About are you going to who to serve? Are you going to pick someone who just needs one, or are you going to pick the person who's been there the longest? Are you going to pick them in order, or are you going to wait for a wizard to come in and do that?
Yeah, or wait for the wizard a bit, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, a new one. But yeah, I there's definitely quite a bit of, do that or try to be faster.
They're relatively minor choices, but you're making them all the time. You're constantly making these decisions.
And that adds up to the...
I think so. So what would good be for...
A clear and coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if they hadn't got the wizard in there, right?
Definitely.
They would have been relying purely on the normal choices in gameplay. So there's an argument that, again, there's a level of simplicity here, but you are constantly doing it. What would excellent be?
Clear, coherent, and well-balanced set of goals, risks, and rewards.
Yeah. So I'm not sure there's enough to demonstrate that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think probably this is at the good level.
And how does the pacing feel?
So it was very good. I'm wondering whether it's sort of stagnated a bit now. I've lost track of what level I'm on. So again, we kind of talked about some of the feedback, and one of the things that's missing is which level I've actually got to. So this one is essentially the same as the last one. I've got a different coloured drink, but since there's no actual difference between the drinks other than the symbol, as far but up to now it was working well. So I started off with one colour, and then I had multiple colours, and then my bar got bigger, so I'm having to navigate round further.
Yeah.
And the number of customers. So I'm presuming that's the difference in this level, is perhaps the volume of customers. And
yeah,
again,
it feels
maybe the
more
total,
and more.
Maybe the total number of customers is part of this as well. I'm not 100% sure. So there's definitely a feeling of progress. And the other thing that's quite nice is that because each level starts relatively simply, I feel like I've got a little bit of a break. So like now it's starting to get pretty hectic in here, right?
Yeah.
What do I need? That one. I can do the wizard, and then hopefully he'll. So yeah. So I think it's there's clear pacing going on. Oops. Oh my life! I've forgotten what order they all came in. So what would good be?
Yeah. So good would be tension rises over time in a coherent pattern.
Yeah, I think it's definitely there. Ooh. Any wizards? Is that a wizard? Are you a wizard? But again, see, because that takes the spell takes
just
a while
in
to
time.
Go. Oh, honestly, yeah. So I think it does rise coherently in time, and gradually. What would excellent be?
Tension rises over time in a coherent and well-balanced pattern.
So that's the well-balanced thing. I think it is. I think kind of, as I said, superficially this level looks similar to the last one, but I think it's probably, it feels like it's got more intense in terms of the number of customers. So yes, I think they've probably managed an excellent.
Yeah, and I don't know what the other levels hold.
Yes, I got 4. I still know what level I'm on, but I've got 4.
Okay,
right.
Yeah. So
where we got to?
Tutorial, which we had.
So the tutorial was pretty thin, wasn't it?
Well, at the beginning it was just the before serve
left and right.
part.
And then we had that
And
little
they
animation, didn't
they mostly left you to, without any. I don't think there was any
we? No.
time limit in the first level,
Yeah.
or the customer didn't get angry.
And then they did have that little animation with the wizard trying to show us the wizard having that effect.
Yeah. And there's
So-
also, I suppose, the fact that they introduce a few different colors slowly, and
Yeah.
they don't just start 4 colors, which is kind of part of a
Yeah.
overarching tutorial of slowly introducing more stuff, even though
Yeah.
it's not.
So what would good be then?
Gradual explanation of gameplay and controls fully aligned with play.
So I think they have actually achieved that, because they were they were introducing things to us when we needed them. It's just that beginning bit that was a bit flaky. But what would excellent be?
Excellent gradual explanation of gameplay and controls fully aligned with play and sometimes communicated through level design.
Yeah, so I don't think they've quite got there. They've got the alignment working.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably say it's the good level.
Yeah. And in this case, that leads us to the core dynamic. And almost, yeah. So, what do you think the core dynamic is?
Well, that's an interesting one, actually.
It feels
survival.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
It's got an element of spatial reasoning, but it is survival, really. What did they say it was?
Yeah. So they do say the core dynamic of our game is survival. So the focus of this game is pouring the correct drinks for customers fast enough to avoid them getting frustrated and leaving.
Yeah.
This is the struggle throughout the game and represents the fight to survive. Some spatial reasoning dynamics are also at play, but are not the central pattern of play.
Yeah, and I think that's probably fair. So what would good be for a core dynamic?
Let's see. Core dynamic. Good would be a clear core dynamic that is supported by the primary mechanics.
So I think that's there. And what would excellent be?
Excellent. A clear core dynamic that is supported by an integrated set of mechanics.
So it's kind of all down to how well the mechanics fit together to support that core dynamic. So I'm not sure they've quite got there, and the reason I'm not sure it's quite there is, how do I know if I've done better on this playthrough than the last playthrough?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't know how.
I don't know how many customers I've served. I don't know how long I've been going. And I think kind of if you really wanted to have that survival mechanic, survival dynamic, you try and emphasize that with that mechanism.
Yeah.
So I think it's good, and I think all the mechanics are pulling in the right direction. But I think it's not that anything's wrong. It's that I think it's possibly missing a few things that would have emphasised the survival aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So limits it to kind of like a good level.
Yeah, I can see how just adding how many customers are left or how many customers you did immediately.
Yeah, I think you have served
gives you
X
a point
customers.
Yeah. And the final one is the feedback.
So what did they say?
Oh, it's quite a long one. Let me see. So in the first lab, they received 5 key pieces of feedback, which they responded to accordingly. Yeah, okay. So the first piece of feedback was we received the first piece first the first
Yep.
piece of feedback we received was to have more customers, make it more difficult, and have some agency to fight this. In response to this, we followed this advice and focused on making the number of customers be increasing factor through the levels. Yeah, it does. There's more and more customers. As you progress through the levels, the number of customers spawning increases in each.
Yep.
To give the players some agency to fight this, we have magical customers who, when served, cast the spell to make customers' patience rise.
Yeah. Ooh.
And this allows the player to strategically serve these special customers to increase their chance of survival.
Which I'm now relying on because I'm being rubbish here.
So the next piece of feedback was to play into the intensity when the customers start to pile up with visual and auditory effects.
Yeah, like they're doing right now. It's like, go away, go away.
Yeah, you really need a wizard right now, or you.
I really do need a wizard because I'm not gonna. All these customers are gonna lose it. There's nothing I can do about it. There you go.
Oh yeah, so when the level of intensity reaches a certain level, the music fades to become faster and louder, and the screen begins to shake, which does make you feel.
That works.
The third piece of feedback we received was to have different kinds of customers in order to make the game more interesting. Yeah, so they did the normal and the magic one.
Yeah, that really works. That gives you a real choice and allows you to. It gives you a real kind of sort of additional element to the play. It's very effective.
Yeah, they also were advised to introduce customer patience as a tutorial element, which they did by allowing the player to learn via failure in the second level.
Yeah.
And our final piece of feedback was to make the game more complex than just playing to keep the customers from running out of patience. But after some design and testing, we concluded that the fear of a customer reaching the extent of their patience is a perfect fit for our emphasis of intensity. Feedback 2, and plays directly into our core dynamic.
Yeah. So I think they've kind of they've clearly have interpreted that feedback and they've incorporated it really well. I think that level of interpretation probably means it's at the excellent level. So what was excellent for feedback?
So feedback has been interpreted and addressed, and changes have been successful.
And I think they've done that, haven't they? It's clearly working.
And they also have a few small, a list of feedback that they received from playtesting, which is also nice.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely.
So this is
excellent.
So this is fun. I mean, this is a relatively simple game. It's the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a as a sub game in a party game or something. But really, really nicely done. And as you can see, with the fact I'm still going, it is very playable. So, all right, I think that's it though for this game, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be funny if not serving the wizard and then he, casts a spell to make
everyone else
customers
enraged.
more angry. Yeah.
Right. Before I get too stressed, I think we should finish up. Yeah. Right. Let's have a look at our next game. Okay, so our next game is called Super Roomba. So I'm expecting something to do with vacuuming, right? Vacuum Cleaner Simulator 22. Nice.
This game sucks. Very close to clean.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. So, all right. I like this. I like the fact they're trying to get me to buy credits already. Monetization.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go for it. House 1. Select a room to clean. So I've got different choices. So presumably I have to do. I have to unlock them. Dirt level 3. Rings vacuumed 0. Room boy. Battery life 16. Move with WASD. All those keys kind of flashing. Alright. Alright. Oh, I get a nice little sound effect. I have turned the sound right down. Do I get... Oh, I got back. Oh, yeah. I've been happily moving around. I just realised my battery life's been going down. Okay, what happens if I run out of battery life? Oh, I failed. Retry room. Okay, so I presume this is nice and easy. So I will.
Yeah, I suppose they give you enough battery life to make a few mistakes.
Yes. Next room. Okay. All right. Here we go. Oh, that was a bit closer that time.
Yeah.
Next room. Battery life 11.
One.
When I
Is it
pick
that?
up...
Oh, that's
Dead enough.
almost. Yeah, exactly on.
I think, did something say +1 when I picked up some dirt then?
I think it's +1 on rings vacuumed. It feels like.
Oh, I see. Okay. Alright, and there's some cats.
You.
Oh, I see. So the cats kind of...
Push you and you don't waste battery.
That's a really nice conceit.
Yeah.
I like that.
And they've made the level in such a way that you have to learn
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Otherwise you won't be able to.
Yeah, so you're kind of forced into it. So you're learning very naturally. Okay, battery life 3. Okay, so now I have to use what I've just learnt. There we go.
Yeah.
House finished. So main menu. Oh, there is a house. All right. I didn't know there would be. Okay, here we go.
Ah.
All right. Oh wow. Right.
Oh.
Battery life 6. So there's presumably that's a refill for my battery.
Looks like it.
Now what's that do? Ah, okay. So I got to vacuum that multiple times.
Ah.
Got it.
I
okay.
see.
Oh, so I've gone to the next room. I should have done the previous room. Okay. A main menu. House 2. I didn't complete my room.
Yeah. Looks. Yeah, and then you have enough. Okay.
There we go. Let's get
So you
back.
get coins for each room completion.
Yes.
And then once you get enough coins, you unlock
Yes.
the next.
Unlock the next one. So, okay, so...
It's getting harder.
Definitely getting harder, isn't it? Oh, my life. Oh, yeah. Very
So
cute.
they're starting to combine a few.
Yeah, so now I've got the batteries and I've got the cats, and we're all building up.
Oh, rings.
Oh, what do rings do? Well, let's find out. Oh,
Yeah, try to. It feels like you're not supposed to vacuum dirt. Oh, yeah. If you look at the results, you have dirt collected minus rings vacuum, so you don't want the rings. Yeah, so you have to manually actually
got you.
do that. Okay.
I like what they're trying to do. I'm not quite sure that works so well as the previous one
yeah.
with the cats, but yeah. You
It
figured
took
it
us
out.
a bit of time.
Well, you figured it out before I did. What does that do? Oh, that's like a slippery thing that sends me forward too.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Try to. Oh yeah, I think if you do get a ring, it won't end the game, but in the end, it's gonna tell you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I just have to get some points, don't I? House finished. Main menu.
final one.
House 3, Mighty House 3.
Interesting.
There's a lady vacuum cleaner, room girl. So okay, how do you think I? Oh, I control them both at the same time.
Ah,
Very nice. Very nice.
interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Cute. Very cute. Okay, so again, they're combining things. I've got the cats. I've got the multiple. I wonder if
Roombas.
I've got an idea here that. Oh no, it's not going to work. I wondered if when I'm going to get knocked, if I knock the Here we go. See if this works. No. Retry room. All right, so I can.
Yeah, try up now.
So you stop. You
Yeah.
knock. Got it. Nice. I have to say that it although I wasn't quite sure about the rings, everything else has been taught beautifully within the level.
Oh yeah,
Done a really nice job. Oh, crikey, Moses. All right. Yes. If I go down and get okay.
Oh, I see.
So I have to do something like. Oh. The wrong one's got. Oh no, there we go. Yay! Alright, and then is this the last room? 3 out of 5.
Okay, I'll start going through the marking criteria.
Yeah. I love how this started off being so simple, and I'm like, what on earth have I got to do here?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
So, shall we start with information design? Let's see. And there's a lot of things going on, it feels like.
Oops. Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
I'm not going to make it. Yeah, so if you think about information design, yeah, I've got a lot of stuff on the screen. So, but it's all here. So I've got the level thing at the top here. I've got the dirt left. I've got the number of rings I've vacuumed, and I've got the battery life of the room boy and the room girl.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite nice. So I've got all that basic stuff, and then on the level they've done it quite nicely because I've got the dirt, and there's clearly the 2 different types of dirt, right?
Yeah.
So that tells me that's very clear. The cats with their activation zone, with the arrow showing us where to go. The 3 that's written on the battery. So I think the information design is pretty good.
So there's oak information is definitely shown.
Yeah, so it's definitely at the good level. What would be sort of excellent?
It needs to be shown clearly.
Okay, so I
oak
think
information.
Yeah, I think it does. But I might go further than that. What would be prizeworthy?
Novel yet clear ways of showing key information. And
yeah, I kind of. I mean, they're not astonishingly novel, but they're built into the game in a very natural way.
Yeah,
so I'd be tempted to go halfway between excellent and prizeworthy, I think.
Yeah. I think I agree. And the next part is graphics, and I think they work pretty well.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's nice and consistent. Not only the pixel art of the puzzle, but also the menu system, all the information around the edges. They're all built in nicely. There's the way in which this isn't just completely abstract. It's framed like I'm in a kitchen here, for example. You can see that. So yeah, really nicely done and very clear. So yeah, I mean, what would good be for the graphics?
Yeah, so good would be consistent and effective, and I think we're there.
Yes.
And I think that they're appealing as well. It feels like.
Oops. Yes, I think so.
Which puts it on the excellent.
Yeah.
And prizeworthy actually would be consistent, effective, and thematically resonant graphics. And
I mean, there's again, you know, it's getting there, isn't it? There are things like little touches, like this little cat in the corner here.
yeah, and
yes, I mean, I don't think there's anything astonishing going on with the graphics they've done, right? But they're very consistent. They're nice and appropriate. Got a good use of iconography on screens like this.
yeah,
It's well
absolutely.
situated. So again, maybe halfway to prizeworthy, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Just really, really clearly done.
And clearly they've put effort into it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess the next one is audio, which I can hear some of.
Yes. So I've got a nice little music track going on that's not too obtrusive, and then I get nice little noises. So when I move, there's a little sort of zzz noise of the servos,
Yeah,
and then little meow from the cat.
yeah,
Yeah, it's cute. It's really good. Everything that you think should have an effect does, and they're all consistent. They're all working in the same direction to give you the same kind of feel to the game. Yeah, works really nicely. I'll tell you an example of the graphics thing, by the way. Look at these three cats here, right?
oh yeah,
So you've got three different cat graphics, and they could have left this as a, you know, the arrows do the job of pointing where the cats go. They could have used the same cat animation, but they don't. They use a different cat animation with the cat looking in the direction that the arrow is, and that's the kind of attention to detail that I think lifts them above even the excellent level. So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
You know, the blinking Roomba.
Yeah, small stuff like that, definitely.
Yeah, so very nice. Yeah, so sound again, really, really good. So what would excellent be?
Yeah, excellent would be complementary and appealing effects and music.
Yeah, so it's definitely achieved that. And what would prizeworthy be?
Sophisticated, complementary, and appealing effects and music.
Is it sophisticated? I mean, like, I've got a different track here to when I go into the rooms.
Yeah, and do the different houses have a different backing track? Or is it the same background music for all of the different houses?
It's the same. It's the same for each one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the same environment. So maybe just that again, halfway between excellent and prizeworthy again. It's kind of, you know, it doesn't feel quite exhaustively complete as it might be, but they're almost there. They've got really cute effects. They're deployed really well. Yeah, I think they've done a really, really nice job.
yeah, yeah. And thus that leads us to the mechanics of the game, of the marking criteria.
Yeah, so if we look at the mechanics, obviously we've got the Roomba, who moves. We've got the dirt. We've got the double dirt. We've got the slidey patches. We've got the batteries. We've got the cats, and we've got the room girl, right?
And the
As well
rings.
as the room boy, and the rings. I mean, there's a lot going on, and they're combined together in a really interesting way, aren't they? So, yeah, what would excellent be?
A wide set of complementary mechanics.
Yes, I think that's true. They're complementary. They all fit together. They work really nicely together. What would prizeworthy be?
A wide set of complex and complementary mechanics.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously some games need more complexity than others, and this doesn't feel like a game that needs a huge amount of complexity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, are they sophisticated in the way that they interconnect, I wonder?
You could say it starts getting there if they had like a few more levels with more interconnectedness between the mechanics.
Yeah. So this one is the most complex one they have, right? Which I haven't quite solved.
Oh yeah, it does seem.
And there's something. Oops! I accidentally vacuumed a ring. Can I have another one in a minute? I think. Oops. Yeah. 5 points. Retry room. Yeah, I don't think they're quite there. I don't think they've quite managed to chain together. They're almost there, right? So some of those examples where you slide across multiple patches in interesting ways, and it feels like they're almost there. So again, I'm going to suggest halfway between the two, and they're a little bit hamstrung, I think, by the nature of the game that they've got. But yeah, probably halfway between excellent and prizeworthy, but really nicely put together.
Yeah, definitely. And how do the controls feel? There aren't that many, I think. Like only the arrow keys, it feels like.
Yeah, there's only the arrow keys. So this is a bit difficult, isn't it? Because the controls are very simple, but they only need to be simple.
And I suppose you can also say the mouse navigation in the menu, if we count that as controls.
That's
but
true. I mean, what would good be, just to give us a sort of a baseline here?
So, reasonable set of smooth, usable controls. And yeah, that's the thing. Reasonable set.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I think we do have a reasonable set of smooth usable controls. So I think we're there, and I know what you mean about is it reasonable, but it says reasonable, not loads of complex controls because so I think there's a reasonable set of controls
reasonable set for the game itself.
Yeah, and they're smooth and they're usable, and I mean if you look at the motion, it's a nice motion. Moves, there's an acceleration from one to the other. It feels very clean. It does work. What would excellent be?
Excellent is reasonable set of intuitive and smooth usable controls.
Yeah, again, they're so simple they're kind of intuitive by default, really.
Yeah.
I think this might be where the simplicity is limiting them a bit. But they are intuitive. It's intuitive as to what the way that I interact. And I certainly feel like I'm playing the game, so maybe halfway between good and excellent for that reason.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's almost there, but not quite.
Yeah.
Any bugs that we've noticed? I don't think so.
No. I'm trying to stop them getting that ring. No, there's no bugs. It's working really well. So
and game is quite complex.
I think so.
It feels like with the whole
I think
cuts
so.
And all that.
So we're up to kind of excellent. I think prizeworthy would be if it was super complex, right?
Yeah.
And I think the complexity here is in the design of the levels and the way that it's that the tutorial builds up. It's not in the complexity of the game system itself. So for me, for bugs, it's probably at the excellent level.
Yeah. No obvious bugs, and the game is reasonably complex.
Yeah, I think so.
And now we get to the level design part of the brief, and the goals, risks, and rewards, which is an interesting one.
Damn it. Okay. So goals, risks, and rewards. So my goal's very clear, right? So
they know the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of. Although I can't remember, did it say that at any point, or has I just gathered that from? Oh, it says dirt. It says dirt left. So.
Yeah, I suppose that.
But I mean, it is clear what I need to do. So I think goals is fine. Risks and rewards is interesting. So actually, if I I probably need a more complex room. They are here. So if you take so that's what the rings do, right? So the rings basically give me a risk reward mechanism within the game. So if I can solve the puzzle and just collect a couple of rings along the way, and I will, I'll solve the puzzle and I'll go on to the next level, but I won't have done as well as I could do. Or I could try and solve the puzzle without the rings, right? So the risk, I guess, is that if I avoid the rings, I'm in danger of not solving the puzzle, and the reward is I get a kind of a better score because I don't get the minuses from the rings. So I think there's a clear risk reward mechanism. I think the goal is pretty clear, certainly after that first initial level.
Yeah, and they pick up, I guess, towards the later parts of the game, the risks and rewards.
Yeah. So so what would good be for goals, risks, rewards?
So clear and coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards.
Haha. Nope, still haven't done it. Yeah, so I think it's definitely clear and coherent. What would excellent be?
Clear, coherent, and well balanced.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they, you clearly got some thinking to do.
Almost there, it feels like. But yeah, so.
Haha!
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That seemed hard. So where were we on the goals, risks, and rewards? And
yeah, we said what was excellent. We said
excellent is clear, coherent, and well balanced.
Yeah, and I think they are. I think they are. Yeah, I think that works. And what would praiseworthy be?
Clear, coherent, and well balanced alternative sets of goals, risks,
Okay,
and rewards.
so that's interesting. So, do we have alternative sets of goals, risks, and rewards? I'm not sure that we do. Do we? I kind of have. I suppose there's multiple paths and things, but yeah, there's not necessarily. I'm trying to think if I've got examples. So if I go back to house 3 and I pick the hard room here, right? So I mean I don't know. Maybe there's multiple ways to check. I suppose there's do you pick up one ring? Do you pick up multiple rings? There's that aspect to it. But I don't think there's alternative things going on, right? And I mean maybe it would have made it more challenging if there had been, but I still think in this case they've got a what they've done very well, so it's probably at the excellent level.
Yeah. I think you're right. Also, can you go to the main menu?
Yep. Hang on, I think I need to
the start.
So if I go to the main menu, yeah.
And on the bottom that start, can you click that, or is it just as
I think it's just
that you completed everything?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
So, how does the pacing feel? I think it clearly, it gets harder.
Yes. No, the pacing feels really good, actually. So, if I house 1, even up to room 5 here, this feels like it's sort of a relatively simple puzzle. But if I then... Can I escape back? Oh, I can... Well, Ben menu. But if I go to house 2 and pick room 1, this is simpler than that previous one, right? Because it's teaching me a new mechanic, effectively.
Exactly.
So, I think they've done a really nice job of getting the pacing right. And again, if I pick room 5 of house 2, it kind of looks like this. And if I go back to do room 1 of house 3... it kind of, again, it's it's introducing a new mechanic, but it's at the same level or even slightly below the final the final one of House 2, right? So I think the pacing's really nice. I think they've done a really good job. What would excellent be for pacing?
Tension rises over time in a coherent and well-balanced pattern.
Yeah, so I think it definitely does that. And what would praiseworthy be?
That's interesting. So tension rises over time in a coherent and well-balanced pattern linked to variations in gameplay. And
yeah, so you could argue that because they are introducing, each of these houses has a new mechanism, right? So there's no batteries or anything in this one. There's cats, and then this one is the one with the batteries in the rings, and then the room girl appears in House 3. So I think it is linked to new types of gameplay, actually. Maybe the first two are more subtle than this last one, which is, I think, a bit more
the
clear.
last one.
But yeah, I think they've done a really nice job of doing it. I'd be tempted to give them the praiseworthy mark, I think.
Yeah, when you say it like that, yeah.
So we're on to the tutorial, aren't we?
Yeah.
So the tutorial has elements that I really, really like, and elements that I'm a bit less keen on, but I still think it's a great attempt. So the keys here, the WASD keys, and that's obviously just giving you the basics. I think they leave you to figure out a lot yourself. I think that's a deliberate choice. I do think it's maybe a shame that they didn't say about trying to collect the dirt and the rings is left for you to figure out based on the final score. This card here, dirt collected minus rings vacuumed equals points. And I think maybe they could have done a bit more to emphasize that in some way. But in terms of actually introducing the mechanics in a gradual way that are integrated with the game, it's done really nicely, actually. And it's only the WASD movement keys which are put on the screen. Everything else is just there. It's all there are big sections of it which are directly taught through level design. I'm trying to remember if it's room 1. Yeah, so here, for example, even this simple, where we pick up the battery and then that gives us enough to go back. So yeah, what would excellent be for the tutorial?
So excellent is a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls fully aligned with play, and sometimes communicated through level design.
So I think they definitely achieved that. And what would praiseworthy be?
A gradual explanation of gameplay and control fully aligned with play and communicated through level design. So it's not sometimes.
I mean, that's what they have done.
Yeah.
I just think they've not quite communicated everything fully. I think the rings kind of, it's just the rings really. But I mean, everything else is done really nicely, and it's done through level design. Maybe halfway between the two again, excellent and praiseworthy.
Yeah.
It is very good. I mean, there's no denying that. So we're on to the core dynamics, right?
And I think it's pretty obvious what the core dynamic is.
Yes. So
they say
spatial reasoning, I hope.
Yes. So they say the core dynamic with this game is spatial reasoning, as in order to achieve the primary and sub goals, get a medal for each room in each house, clean out dirt in a room before running out of battery, etc. You must observe the position of objects in relation to the avatar and base your actions off them. Failing to properly do so will result in making suboptimal movement and not getting enough points.
Yeah.
Which,
that's bang on. What would excellent be for core dynamic?
A clear core dynamic that is supported by an integrated set of mechanics.
So you've got all the mechanics here. So it is a clear core dynamic, spatial reasoning. All of the mechanics are around that spatial reasoning. There's nothing that's in there that shouldn't be. There's another dynamic going on, which is kind of collection, I suppose, because you're effectively collecting dirt patches and trying not to collect rings. But they fully support the spatial reasoning core dynamic. So
because I think of the battery is what makes it work.
Yeah. So battery's the same, right? So you're collecting stuff. So if you were to say what were the dynamics in this game, you would say it's spatial reasoning and collection, right? But you're collecting in order to, it's completely supporting the spatial reasoning, right?
Yeah.
So although you are in a sense rewarded for your collection, because how many dirt bits you collected, your goal is to collect as many of one thing while avoiding the others, and therefore it's a spatial reasoning challenge, not a collection challenge. So I think again that probably puts it straight on the excellent level. So what was excellent again? It was
excellent is a clear core dynamic that is supported by an integrated set of mechanics.
Yeah, so I think it's there. And then what would Prizeworthy be?
And that's interesting because it's the same thing. So clear core dynamic supported by an integrated set of mechanics and other supporting dynamics.
So yeah, and we have sort of said there is a supporting collection mechanic, collection dynamic, and the thing that makes it really work is that you're trying to collect one thing and avoid another, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So yes. So I think it's there. I think it's a kind of up at the Prizeworthy level again.
Yeah, that was interesting because when you were talking about, the second collection dynamic, and I'm just looking at Prizeworthy and seeing that there's other supporting dynamics, and
yeah. So I think it's there. Okay, and that takes us on to feedback. So what was the feedback they got? What did they do?
Let's
kind of
see.
Intrigued.
So, first one, explaining mechanics more overtly and without any punishment. So prior to this feedback, a few mechanics had to be chosen to be interacted with by the player in order to get even a passing score on the level. We were told that this could be too punishing considering the player could fail the level due to lack of knowledge. And as such, many levels where mechanics were introduced were designed such as the mechanic is not overtly forced upon the player, and passing said level is far more trivial and thus non-punishing. And for example, the room with the batteries, the first room, there is some challenge to it because you have to get the order of the batteries, but at the same time...
Yes, because I got it wrong the first time, right? If I go left now, I will fail, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But at the same time, the main focus is on learning the new mechanic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and that has worked really well because we talked about the pacing. So because the new mechanics are taught at the beginning of each house, it means you have this drop in challenge at the beginning of each session, each house, which works really, really well in terms of the pacing, which is why they did so well on the pacing area. So yeah, I think that's clearly worked for them. Did they have any other items of feedback?
So they have in total 3 more. So the second one is altering look of rooms, and they have a screenshot of before and after. Because they were told that the first design of the floor tiles was a bit harder to make sense of and a bit confusing. And then they just created a new tile set for the floor, so it's now easier to. There's a nice contrast between the tiles and the.
The contrast wasn't great enough between the floor and the.
In a sense, it was just a bit harder to.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about that with the graphics, but actually, some of the things like the different shapes of the rooms add a lot of visual interest. The contrast between the stuff in the foreground and background also works really nicely. I think that was very effective too. So what would an excellent be for feedback?
I just want to look at the other two because they have the scoring So the scoring system, they initially had it in the form of a percentage,
Okay.
where 100% amounted to all dirt and 0 rings vacuumed
Yeah.
in a room. And despite showing the dirt and rings, it was, I suppose, confusing and a bit more difficult to think
Yeah.
about it. So in response, they,
Change to
did
points.
this. Yeah, exactly. Which, does
Yeah.
work,
Very clear.
makes it easier.
Shows you what you need to unlock the room. How do you earn the medal? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and the final one is a bit funny, I think.
Okay.
It's the naming of the game itself, because the original title was Roomba Simulator 2020,
Yeah.
but it was brought to their attention that some players were unfamiliar with what a Roomba is,
Right.
so they had to change the name to Super Roomba with a subtitle Vacuum Cleaner Simulator. Yeah.
Yeah. Those of us who have not contemplated automation of our homes with robotics.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I mean, the last one is obviously relatively trivial, but the first three are
Yeah.
pretty good. And
Yeah,
even the last one's a
so
fair point. So look, what would excellent be for feedback?
excellent is feedback has been interpreted and addressed, and the changes have been successful, and I think we're there.
Definitely there, yeah. And again, prizeworthy?
And feedback has been interpreted and imaginatively addressed with successful changes.
Yeah, this is the problem with the prizeworthy categories. It includes words like novel and imaginary.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
very difficult to judge. So in this case, I mean, what did they do? So there was the one about the contrast. There was the element about
The design of the levels themselves when introducing mechanics.
yes. So and we said they've done that nicely. So there's an interpretation.
There's
There.
definitely, because they could have done it a number of ways.
Yeah. And what was the
And
third one?
the scoring system as well, which was
Yeah.
confusing.
And has worked. I mean, it's difficult to say what's imaginative and what's not, but I think they've interpreted those things into their game space in a clever way that's actually not only addressed the feedback that they had originally, but improved the game in other ways, sort of indirectly. So yeah, I think I'm umming and ahhing between should it be prizeworthy, should it be
Between
exceptional,
yeah,
but or should it be in between? But I think given that they've done such a successful job of it, I think we should award them the prizeworthy category for that. So,
yeah.
I think that's our last category.
Game of the batch. Yeah.
The last game. Yeah, look, I mean, I really like this. I think, there are one or two little niggles you could maybe talk about, but they're niggles. I mean, it's so nicely put together. It does exactly what we asked them to do. It teaches through the level design. It's interesting to play. The puzzles become, are challenging in an interesting way, but it's not overwhelming. Yeah, very well judged. Yeah, well done. Really, really good game.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's our last game, I guess we'll say thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.